I'm Kenneth Lundin. I'm manager for the Erlang OTP team at Ericsson, and I've been for over a decade.
Yes.
And it was actually Björn Decker and myself who, I think, started the Erlang User Conference. It was Ericsson.
Yeah.
Did it from the beginning in the Ericsson.
Yeah, I would definitely call it the brain trust of OTP.
Yes,
and
yes.
Erlang.
And then it became too big, so
Yeah.
so Erlang Solutions took over.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. So often in open source communities, you have sort of the grassroots, origins of the conference, and then ideally when you succeed, it grows to a point where we need a bit more structure around it. So, and it's amazing to see the turnout here. I mean, that was a pretty packed room for the presentation. So.
And this EUC, it's an event that all of my employees they can go if they want to.
Yeah.
And I think we are 12 out of 17 here today.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those experiences that I find is really useful for sort of employee teams and people that are doing that day to day. Right? There's certain connections that you make and discussions that you get to have that when you come to a conference like this that you don't get behind the desk, so to speak. Right?
I think the important thing is to meet users.
Yeah.
And discuss things.
Yeah.
That's more important than listening to talks, actually.
Yeah, it's actually the sort of almost like the hallway track at the conference.
Yes, yes.
So I think the presentations are great. I mean, it's really useful, and there's this discussion or dialogue that happens sometimes in the presentations. But I think it's those spaces in between where you get to have those discussions with users and different experiences that are really great. So.
Yes.
And then you just gave an update, sort of a status update on OTP and the roadmap. That was pretty exciting to hear from sort of an end user perspective. Is there anything that you wanted to share, condense in terms of sort of 2 or 3 nuggets or takeaways to the community?
I mean, I thought about I should have had one slide more in this presentation where I.
So this is the
when
extra
I talked
slide here.
in the end talked about what we are planning to do for the next year and so on. I should have a wish list of things that I want to see happen, not necessarily built by us, but by anyone.
Yeah.
And it is more about support for implementing microservices in Erlang. And also support for Internet of Things systems.
Those are 2
and there are a number of
great areas.
buzzwords or protocols that's good to have in the ecosystem. It's like, for example, in the Erlang ecosystem, the gRPC, which is a communication implemented or developed, I think, by Google from the beginning, and it's popular in the cloud and microservice area.
Yeah.
It's built on top of HTTP2, which I think maybe lacks somewhat support in Erlang, and the gRPC as well.
Yeah,
it's a specification where you can generate code, and there are also other areas in the microservice, the REST APIs. There are specification frameworks like RAML and Swagger, which have support for many languages, but I don't think they have a good support for Erlang.
Yeah, and I think those are good opportunities for community contribution because often people may have used those protocols or those approaches with other languages, and they can take that learning and bring it to the Erlang ecosystem. So, and I think there's also an interesting opportunity, I think, for some of that learning to be bi-directional because Erlang is so strong in many ways. It's always been the microservices architecture in some ways, right, and has had this integral or integrated support for doing distributed systems, which many of those microservices and those other languages are trying to solve. So ideally, if people could bring some of that knowledge around the areas that you mentioned to the Erlang ecosystem, I think they'd have a lot of learning that could be brought to the other languages that they're working with too, right? So, were there any other examples maybe that of other areas on that wish list?
I mean, it's in the Internet of Things area, there are some protocols like MQTT, I don't remember the name, lightweight M2M protocol, I think, and CUAP, C-U-A-P.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
protocols interesting in that area.
Yeah, there's definitely some emerging protocols, and I think there's also in the Erlang and Elixir ecosystem with what's happening around nerves and sort of embedded hardware and IoT there. I think there's lots of opportunity for sort of cross-pollination between what's happening outside of our ecosystem, and then I think with some of the stuff that we're doing quite well.
And I think maybe Erlang doesn't necessarily need to execute on the small thing, but it could be very suitable to implement server side in Erlang.
Yeah, I think really
Control
the server side and sort of architecture for deploying platforms like that, Erlang is just a natural fit for that, right? So, but I think some of the protocols to sort of go out to the edge, so to speak, and work with some of the smaller devices, I mean that's definitely a bit of a missing piece. So that's great. Well, I think that's a great, great extra slide to get from the presentation. So, and then any other thoughts in terms of other things that you might want to share around the OTP roadmap or, your plans for the year?
Well, that is then, of course, if we can have more contributions or collaborations with the developers. I mean, it's better to have a ongoing collaboration than to just get the contribution, oh, this is the code, and maybe it's done in a way that we don't want in the system.
Yeah.
So it's more likely that it gets into the main release if we talk about it in advance and agree on what to do and so like that.
Yeah, and I know as the whole BMO ecosystem is evolving right now around Erlang and Elixir and Phoenix and Nerves, I think there's some discussion around how that community as a whole evolves and then fostering more of that collaboration. So hopefully we can see a lot more of that.
I mean, we have an ongoing collaboration with Jose Valim about suggestions he has and so.
Yeah, I think we're actually meeting on some of that stuff tonight, which is great. So, but I think these conferences present a really interesting opportunity to do that because everyone's sort of face to face, and there's an opportunity, I think, to collaborate around the collaboration and how we work together, and then even start maybe doing code sprints or contribution sprints where we use these events as like a milestone where people get together and even do some substantive technical work. So, and
we also, in my wish list, I know that the Elixir community is quite strong, but it tends to be that if they develop something in the Elixir world, it's not so easily used from the Erlang.
Yeah, I think the focus right now really
so the focus should be to make it easier to use Elixir component from Erlang.
Yeah, I think Elixir's done a pretty good job of supporting being able to use everything that's available in Erlang. Yes. And I think almost the next wave of that is just helping to foster that sort of bi-directional flow where everything that evolves in both languages can work in either direction. So I'm not fully up to speed on what the latest on that is, but I know there's been some exciting developments this year, and that would be it'd be great to see more of that over the course of this year. So
yes.
Super. Okay, well, that was really exciting. I mean, it was a fantastic talk, and we really appreciate the few minutes you took to chat with us. It was super. So thanks. We look forward to seeing you at the next conference. So, okay,
thank you.
Take care.